Okay. Good afternoon. We are today with Ms. Ceren Mutuş Toprakseven, a researcher at the International Strategic Research Organization in Turkey.
Yes.
And we would like to start by asking you what's your opinion, or how could you comment on the readmission agreement between the EU and Turkey? What are the main issues to be solved regarding this agreement?
Yes. Well, first of all, maybe we have to clarify the scope of the readmission agreements. It is one of the most important tools of European Union in its third pillar, in its relations with third countries, in the migration control mechanisms. According to the readmission agreement, states are obliged to receive the persons who cross their territories while traveling to the other countries. For example, in the context of Turkey-EU readmission agreement, if these agreements will be signed, Turkey will have to receive migrants who pass towards Turkish territory towards Europe. Well, actually, this agreement has been negotiating since 2003. There have been some pauses. Sometimes the Turkish side rejected continuing the negotiations because it stated that it didn't receive enough guarantees after the signing of this agreement. I think the main problem with this agreement is that Turkish side is trying to sign this agreement in exchange of the abolition of visa requirements for Turkish people. Yes, there's an absolute right for Turkish citizens to travel European countries without visa, but I believe that it should be pushed in another platform instead of in exchange of signing of the readmission agreement. Because at the end, we can face with a risk to be a buffer zone for rejected asylum seekers, refugees, and economic migrants. And at this point, I believe that Turkey does not have an efficient asylum system, in terms of legal, political, social. There is not enough guarantees for these returned migrants for their access to asylum channels. For example, right now, Turkey, when it receives an irregular migrant from another European country, it generally, I don't want to say always, but it generally sends those migrants back to their home countries. And those countries are the countries, war-torn countries, the countries where there are many internal conflicts, wars, and other main problems. So first of all, I think we need to wait until Turkey obtains an efficient asylum system, adopts a comprehensive asylum law, and we need to follow the practice. And after that, we can maybe continue negotiating this agreement. But at this time, I think we need to stop and wait for new improvements in the asylum system.
And what happens with those migrants that try to pass through Turkey in order to get to Europe, and they're rejected by Europe? Are they staying in Turkey, or does Turkey immediately send them back to their home country?
Well, it depends on specific circumstances. Sometimes they are arbitrarily sent back to their home countries. For example, if the officials cannot figure out from which country they're coming, because usually those irregular migrants destroys their identities, passports. That's why sometimes the officials have to wait until they figure out from which country those people are coming. But the main problem is that during that time, during that process, those people are held in detention centers, and those detention centers are not suitable for living. There are precarious living conditions in these centers, but I don't want to say that everything is bad. Turkey started to understand the importance of asylum system, because Turkey is one of the most important countries in terms of receiving many asylum seekers, migrants from other regions, because it's in the middle of the conflict zone. So it should pay more attention to improve the conditions for these people, but at the same time, it should improve the system, the channels, to regulate the migration flows.
So can the Arab Spring be a reflection point towards refugees or asylum seeker migrants in Turkey?
Well, the Arab Spring and its consequences for refugees is much more related to the European Union, maybe. Not specifically in Turkey. If we put the Syrian problem aside, because it's an extraordinary situation, and I believe that the Turkish officials are trying to do their best for those people, because as far as I know right now, there are more than 25,000 people, and they are coming increasingly to the Turkish borders, and Turkish officials are trying to provide those people international protection right now. But maybe at this point we should note some important point, which is that Turkey still provides a geographical derogation to the Refugee Convention. And according to derogation, Turkey does not provide a refugee status to people coming from Middle Eastern countries, coming from Eastern countries. Turkey says that, yes, I will grant refugee status to people, but to those just coming from European countries. And if we look to today's conditions, it is not a realistic point. Up to now, Turkey tried to ignore the problem, and it said that, okay, they can come to my borders, I can provide them international protection, but temporarily. I can accept them temporarily, but after the situation in those people's home countries, I can send them back to their countries. Or it collaborates with UNHCR to re-establish, to resettle those people to another safe third countries. So it is trying to do its best. It's the best way to cope with this problem, because it's not closing its borders, it's receiving them. But you know, there's a debate that there is a huge cost for the protection of those people. And Turkey expects from European Union and international community to support her in dealing with this problem, because I'm afraid that the problem will aggravate in the following time. There is a risk, so Turkey needs some burden sharing as well as political support from the international community.
And how would you define the capacity of Turkey to accept those migrants? How many migrants would Turkey be?
Well, right now it's very difficult for Turkey, and it is right now. Yes, it's very difficult for Turkey. There are more than 25,000 people, and they are increasing day by day. So I believe that Turkey will not provide the current situation for so long. So as soon as there should be a comprehensive discussions for the solution of the problem, but the most important point is that it should be a political pressure on the Syrian regime to stop violence in Syria. That's how those people have the chance to turn back to their homes, because they are escaping from war, and they're escaping from conflict. So, and you cannot blame those people. You cannot say that go back to your home country. It's your country. I don't want you back. I don't want you here. You cannot say this as a state, which is under obligation in the context of international human rights law.
Right.
Do you think? What do you think is what kind of element makes the refugee issue more complicated or difficult to solve? Like, for example, like racial discrimination. Let us ignore to those people who are floating on the sea, or what kind of issue, or like more capability of the nation cannot deal with such mass immigrant. So that's why these issues becomes more difficult to solve.
You're asking me in terms of...
General question.
It's a general question.
Just for example, it's last week or 2 weeks before the Guardian released the NATO actually observed people, one ship floating on the sea, but they ignored.
Yes.
Yeah. In this context, they had the ability
To survive.
and also the refugee had the chance to live more, but they just dump it on the sea.
Yes.
So
Yes, it is one of the main problems, and as I have mentioned in my presentation, maybe the most striking consequence for the hearsay judgment of the European Court of Human Rights will be that states will try to ignore the problem, ignore those people on the high seas who are in distress, so that there won't be a jurisdictional link between the state and those people. They will try to abandon those people on the high seas, and it will eventually result in the deaths of many people, as it occurred in 2010. Many people died on the high seas. The NATO ship saw those people. Other national military vessels saw those people, but they didn't intervene. They didn't intervene on that ship so that they won't be held responsible towards those people. I think it's a big problem, but the international community, especially the NGOs, UNHCR, are publishing reports and warning the states to respect their obligations to rescue people who are in distress on the high seas. But we have to see the following practices, because this hearsay judgment is very critical. Apparently, states will try to change their policies. Maybe they will not intervene, but maybe they will accept and they will bring those people on their territories, but they will be more skeptic towards granting those people refugee status. I don't know. We will see. We should see the practice in the near future.
What is your opinion on Italy's policy last year, if I'm not mistaken, on issuing temporary travel cards to the refugees? So is that a way to get rid of these people, just let them travel freely in Europe? How can regional cooperation in terms, for example, of the EU work towards a better refugee policy?
Well, especially the mass flows of Tunisian people towards Italy last year created a big problem, big debate between France and Italy, because Italy saw that the European Union did nothing to share the burden with Italy, and Italy was coping with this mass flows on its own. So it decided politically, as a response, it decided to grant temporary residence permits for those people, so that those people were capable of traveling to other European countries. And then what we saw, France, Germany, they established their national borders, which they hadn't been established since the signing of the Schengen Agreement, and said that we're closing our borders, so you cannot pass. Is this the correct way? No, it's not the correct way. For example, the Schengen Agreement and the Schengen area is maybe the most important benefits of the European Union for those countries. Free travel, and without internal borders, people are freely traveling around Europe, and it's the main gains of European Union. But what is the solution? The European Union as a whole has to intervene in the problem, and whether in terms of financial support or political support, I don't know how, but they should bear the consequences of the problem as a whole. Otherwise, individual states will try to do on their own, and they will try to do what they want as a response, as a political response to this ignorance. So that's why the European Commission tried to, after this big debate, the European Commission began to work on a proposal. Yes, it let individual states maybe temporarily establish their national borders, but at the same time that it just can be temporarily, not permanently. You cannot systematically establish your borders. First, you should ask me, and I can help you to regulate the problem, but you cannot act on your own. We have to act as the European Union. It tried to solve the problem, but if you ask my opinion, it is not solved right now. Still, there are some tensions among European states. The southern European states have many problems regarding the refugee issue and the migration issue. Still, the Central European countries such as France, Germany, they are staying back and observing this situation, what is happening. So that's how.
And perhaps the last question, how can cultural diplomacy be used as a tool to promote human rights and to promote the refugees' rights in Europe and also in the case of Turkey?
Well, for example, first of all, the culture is one of the main tools to resolve conflicts. Because if you let states, just states, to solve the problems, it won't go to anywhere. But if you use culture and if you educate people, if you inform societies about these main issues, and if you try to establish a common mind on the problems, it can help to solve the problems. And at this point, I believe that cultural diplomacy is very important. We should pay attention to the efforts of NGOs, think tanks, individuals who are trying to establish this link among countries and among societies. And after that, I think there will be a common mind to solve the problem.
Well, Ms. Ceren, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. We are really happy to have you at the ICD today, and we are looking forward to future cooperation with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.